Night 15. Success! What a trial this has been, but now I can see why it was all worth it. I can't believe I almost... Well, let me cease before I get ahead of myself. When I awoke, I felt completely ready. I donned my armor, gathered my weapons, and shared breakfast with Lucy. I gave her the command to stay at camp, and, as always, the girl knew to keep her place for the rest of the night, then retrace our steps to flee back home if I never came back before daylight. She seemed nervous, though I can't say I blamed her considering the conditions of the woods. But I've seen that horse fight off wolves better than trained soldiers could. I put my letters, camping supplies, and the rest of my provisions into her pack, ready to go in case I came back hastily, and then I was headed for my target. The hillside stood as it had the day before, the snow-covered ruins still circled by those infernal bats and ravens. I kept myself low and headed for the parts of the incline clear of molten rock. I have to say, even without getting close, I don't think I've experienced anything hotter than that climb in my entire life. Sweat was running down my face almost immediately, and I couldn't keep my eyes open more than a severe squint, thanks to the waves of heat burning them. If I had taken a water skin up the climb, I wouldn't have been surprised if it had failed to stay as a liquid before I reached the top. I honestly question whether I would be able to be kept from being set aflame before reaching the border of that hellscape. But if I was expecting a reprieve from my troubles, it was not to be. Transferring from the rock and lava to the snow hit me with the speed of one of those bolts of lightning from the ruins. My entire body was awash with pain, and I couldn't keep my legs braced, doing everything I could to throw myself forward and not stumble back into the searing heat. Gloves and thick underclothes did little to stop the frigid air or the chill of the snow I was touching. But after a few steady breaths, I forced myself to my feet again. The rocks were becoming sparse, and I was doubtful that they could keep me covered from all the airborne creatures effectively. But it was the best path on offer, so I kept to the larger boulders and circled the ruins. The climb itself didn't take long, thankfully. I don't think anyone could take much more than what I was exposed to at the time. As I neared the back of the ruins, I could finally see a faint glow coming from a crater at the base of the structure. The white flakes spewing forth violently, traveling in a spiral until they whipped in different directions, higher than the bats and ravens, to blanket the top of the hillside. There was a clear gap in my cover, but I could see a stone balcony on a second level, just behind the dome top of the building. A part of the wall had crumbled, and though it was a risk of collapsing more of the foundation, I bolted for the weak point. The air once I was on the surrounding walkway of the structure filled my lungs with heat once more. In truth, it wasn't much more than a mild temperature, but after being in the cold as long as I had, it was still quite painful. How the top of the structure stayed covered in unmelted snow could only have been through more magical influence. The chill had made my movements somewhat sluggish, but I managed to keep my footing and pull myself up the walk to the balcony. Unable to tell if the corrupted animals above me had raised the volume of their screeching cacophony, or if it was just my senses heightening as I readied for the real fight ahead. Whatever doors had been attached to the balcony had been torn away some time ago, and I entered quietly. Descending the stairs to the ground floor, the doors there appeared intact, well kept even. carved from dark wood and engraving with some kind of runic symbols I'd never seen. I tested the handle and found it smooth and quiet to turn. Opening the door a crack and peering inside. I honestly wish I could have seen that ceiling from outside in the sun. Curved iron beams separated a stained glass mural depicting the change of seasons through 8 segments. Day and night variations upon each. I'm still amazed that such a thing can exist without supports, and the colors were just so... Well, I didn't have much time to contemplate them as I caught sight of my purpose, my whole reason for making this journey in the first place. Nothing could have given one cause to mistake her for a human. Black horns jutting from her forehead, her eyes glowing around those slitted pupils, and those wings. I could see the bone structure beneath, but I would have sworn that nothing darker existed in the corners of this reality or any other. She seemed to almost glide across the room, arranging some kind of dark purple flowers amid vases at 7 points on the floor. But I had little time to think about it. I cursed the sight of no feeble cover for my entry point, relegating myself to head back upstairs and look for another path. Luckily, the door I came across led to an upstairs row of seats that circled nearly the entire room from above. Even more fortunate, there were no animals, demons, or anything else I could see that would give away my approach. I readied my capturing crystals in one hand, my other on my bow in case I needed to pull it quickly. And I crept up to the railing at the edge of the seats. Now I could see what she was doing. Preparing some kind of ritual below. Runes and lines drawn in ashen material. Her back was to me, and I saw no alarm in her posture, so I breathed over the crystal to activate it and pulled back my arm, knowing it would only need to be close, not even touch the demon to absorb her living essence into it. I've never seen a demon who could cross the veil so quickly. The gem was already in the air when she suddenly vanished in a nearly black and purple smoke with small green embers falling from it. My senses already fully alert. I caught a dim flash behind me and spun. My bow was off my shoulder and my other hand already had an arrow before I caught sight of her. But it was too late, and she shoved her palm into my chest, knocking me over the railing. I wouldn't dare to guess how many times I tumbled over before all the air was knocked from my lungs as I hit the unforgiving stone floor below. I think I must have looked quite horrified as the demon made no immediate attempts to subdue me. She clearly thought the fight was already at its end, judging by the smile caressing those dark lips. My hands had held tight, and though I was rattled in pain, not to mention the little amount of pullback I could manage from my position on the floor, I managed to bring arrow to bow and lose one more deadly projectile. In that moment, she and I mirrored the other's shock, as the point of my arrow pierced her heart, her confident lean over the low railing becoming her literal downfall as her legs gave out, and she joined me below with a sick thud. My ears were ringing as I pushed myself to my feet, my armor feeling so much heavier after such an impact, but I couldn't delay. My arrows had spilled from my quiver, so rather than scourge for one, I pulled my sword just in case and readied myself to end this demon's existence. Did you know that succubi have 2 hearts? I certainly found that out when I was nearing the crystal I'd thrown, and she grabbed me from behind, turning me to stare into those glowing eyes brimming with evil. I now understand her preparations I had seemed to interrupt on my arrival. She'd known I was coming for at least as long as when I'd shot the rabbit in the forest, and had plenty of time to prepare. I honestly thought that the actions of a succubus were done out of malevolence. I thought they were creatures who enjoyed the pain and suffering of humans. I can't speak for other demons, but I think I can assure you that a succubus certainly doesn't wish pain upon their chosen hosts. All this time I thought that nothing could be more beautiful than a warm fire and holding your hand right now. Now I see what true beauty is. The world is so limited and drab, drained of colors, and a true flower of life when you're human. I'm going to show you a world you've never known, my love. Once I finish this letter and leave these ruins, I'll send Lucy on ahead with all the sweet words I've been readying for you. If you find her watching you through the windows, perhaps catching a red glow in her eyes, it's simply me checking on you. I'm sure you wouldn't stop reading even if you realized I must be close. Very close. You're going to see the world as I do now. Learn just how limited we've been before this day. If you still haven't stopped reading yet, you may want to check the shadows nearby. See you soon, my love. This short was written by ShadowPuppeTear.